And we're going straight into our Midweek Mediawatch with Hayden Donnell. Hayden, welcome to the program, and you wanted to start off with what else but the election.
That's right, Mark, and I am, of course, talking about Forest and Bird's Bird of the Century election. Now, its result was revealed this morning, and this is how it was announced by Forest and Bird's Chief Executive Nicola Torkey on TVNZ's Breakfast.
Look, Forest and Bird is proud to announce that New Zealand's Bird of the Century is the Pū-tiki-tiki.
John Oliver will be thrilled.
It is John Oliver running interference.
Yes.
Absolutely gutted in the studio there.
Yeah, it was almost a question of how much did it win by. I mean, it was all along was going to be a bit like that, and no wonder they had to work overtime to count.
Exactly, and I mean, if you have been living under a rock and you don't know why everyone's gutted and talking about John Oliver, it's because if you don't know how these elections work, every bird has a campaign manager that has to promote it to the public, win votes to their cause. John Oliver and his team this year, or for the Bird of the Century election, they were given the role managing the Pū-tiki-tiki, which I also didn't know existed, has a natural orange mullet and it pukes a lot. So these are the two major facts that you have to know about the Pū-tiki-tiki. Nevertheless, John Oliver, despite the disadvantages that the Pū-tiki-tiki has, went to extreme lengths to promote it around the world. He put up billboards everywhere. He repeatedly featured this bird on his show, and obviously it paid off.
It was such a amazing campaign on his part, wasn't it? To have the billboards in Wellington and all over the world, London and Paris and whatever, and Wisconsin, I understand.
Yeah, amazing campaign. But of course, who has the resources to do that? Like only this man, and that's ruffled some feathers, Mark. I have to tell you, there's been some feathers ruffled around here. RNZ Tahi presenter Evie Orp was one of those. She actually got in a scrap with John Oliver over his loud campaign, and in turn, he took revenge by featuring her on his show last week tonight. So here's how that played out.
She wasn't the only New Zealander who got a little testy with us. There was also this woman.
You want to take the piss out of our very important election, then I send 14 emails to everyone on your team to try and get you to come and defend yourself in another bird debate, and you said no.
Do you have a bird?
Yeah, Kiriru. It's the best bird.
Okay, let me address that. Okay, of course I said no to that debate. I don't even know how to argue with someone who is that wrong. This is the best bird? Please, it's a pigeon in a tank top. Debate over. I'm not getting on a plane to destroy you like that.
So that was John Oliver's verdict on the Kiriru there.
I'm with Emmy on that one.
Evie, I absolutely
Kiriru.
love a Kiriru.
Oh.
Beautiful bird.
Yeah,
I'm with her, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm Kiwi. What a basic choice. Kiriru all the way. Other people on X, they also gave feedback to John Oliver. I really liked what Emmy Rakati had to say. She raised the US's long history of foreign election interference, and she said, the Pū-tiki-tiki is a Yankee comprador puppet, and I will never acknowledge it as legitimate. Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Good on you, Emmy. Well done. So a lot of people raising concerns with this election. Some media organisations went a bit too far with their headlines, I reckon.
Yeah, and I want to call out the New Zealand Herald here for what I regard as potentially mischievous bit of headline writing. So its story on the election winner was headline Bird of the Century winner, John Oliver's favoured Pū-tiki-tiki wins after mass voter fraud. Now, reading that, you could get the idea that the Pū-tiki-tiki owed its victory to mass voter fraud. That's not the case. The fraudulent votes were primarily for other birds, including 40,000 cast by a single person for the eastern rockhopper penguin. So other people were trying to scupper John Oliver's dominance here, and you can't joke around with this kind of stuff in this day and age, Mark. We've seen allegations of voter fraud, illegitimate elections. We've seen them almost derail democracies overseas. So I'd hope that we'd show a little bit of restraint reporting these kinds of things at home. The Herald's
actually put back online voting. For years, do you think?
Yeah, well, it's probably a big setback to online voting, it's overseas voting. This isn't actually the only sort of complaint of its type that I want to sort of lob at the Herald this week, but there'll be more on that later.
Okay.
At the least, it's disrespectful to the integrity of the Forest and Bird staff who have spent the last few weeks counting around the clock.
Right. It is time, I think, to bring in the manager of communications at Forest and Bird New Zealand, Lynn Freeman. Lynn, welcome to Nights once again.
Kia ora koroa, welcome. Hello, you two.
Kia ora, Lynn. I just want to ask you first off, what do you have to say for yourself?
Happy days, mission accomplished. I was listening to the news, big item on your news bulletin, even in the morning report trailer. This evening, my boss, Nicola Tuki, is talking to the BBC twice. She's done a live interview on 7 News. She's spoken to a couple of American journalists, Māori TV, TVNZ, a reporter who's looking at the upcoming cuts to the Department of Conservation, which is a big story. We've kind of tied it in with Bird of the Century because it's all about awareness and advocacy. I mean, John Oliver, he's kind of done our job for us in many ways. I'm not apologetic. I've been asked so many times today about political interference, but people are forgetting that he's very open about the reason he's doing this, you know. Like our little contest is about advocacy and just getting people to take action and think about our birds, and even if all they do is vote, you know, it's doing something, it's learning, it's conversation. When he's commenting on the fact that America finds it very easy with its wealth and influence to interfere in elections in other countries. He said it a few times. I think people don't quite understand that really is at the heart of this. He's also helping us, and he's really been engaged with us, and we're terribly grateful. You know, he hasn't imposed himself on it. He could have done this without our permission. It's all been really friendly and enjoyable to work with him. But he's making a point. Yes. And we're making a point.
Apart from calling us Australia at one point on the Jimmy Fallon show, I suppose.
Potato, Mark. Potato.
Wow. You are deep in the pocket of big John Oliver
No,
here.
I was actually a bit offended. I wasn't myself offended at that point, but he did correct himself pretty quickly.
So a bit of a dual mandate here. He's doing a satirical thing about US election interference, and you're raising awareness for our birds. But for us, of course, we have this kind of attachment to this vote. It actually means quite a lot to us. And maybe the Pū Tiki Tiki wouldn't have won without John Oliver's help here. So is it robbing us of a chance to really to crown our real bird of the century?
I don't believe so. In fact, I heard you talking to Evie before that you didn't know about the Pū Tiki Tiki. I didn't know the Māori name, which was I feel bad about, but I have seen the Pū Tiki Tiki in Lake Wanaka. They're actually a really beautiful bird, and they're in real trouble. And this is again the point of Bird of the Century. Like, if you remember the rock wren last year, most people will never ever see them. They're tiny, they're in impossible places. And suddenly, for a few days, we were able to talk about the rock wren, what a remarkable little bird it is, nuggety little bird, and the threats to its future. Because
it's almost a bit like the kiwi came second, but we already have lots of efforts underway to conserve the kiwi. Lots of people know about those.
We do, and we love them. And I mean, I think any of the 76 birds that we had this year, you know, they're all winners. And I guess that's the message I'm trying to get across. You know, the campaign managers for the kiwi, the campaign managers for the care, the second and third place getters, they just went hard. They got more than 12,000 votes each of them, only about 900 votes between them. They, you know, I love the energy, and we know that people care, and we know that genuinely there are people who are upset. But it could have been, you know, if you didn't vote for the top bird, you were always going to be disappointed. And it's that passion.
Are those campaign managers, or are they gutted that they put all this work in and then got absolutely steamrolled?
I think there'll be
by John Oliver.
Only 290,000 votes in it, mate.
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
It was close.
Good effort.
I think they've both actually, you know, had time on John Oliver's show, which is pretty good to talk about, you know, their birds and have the profile. Something like more than 190 countries. Even I didn't know that until we crunched the numbers. And we've had votes from. So the conversations are happening in media and in countries and in households. I love the fact, actually, in a way, that people feel so involved in this, that they're upset that their birds are not the official bird of the century, but I think all of our manu are bird of the century. I mean, every single one of them has a story. Most of them are under threat. And that's the messages that we try to get. Look, it's not about a trophy. There's no $100,000 cash prize to be with this. We're going to have a little, Hall of Fame, Manu Hall of Fame eventually, I think. Yeah. And it will be the bird of the century. But most of the birds in the top 10 actually are former birds of the year. So they've also had their time in the sun and been celebrated and enjoyed and had conversations about them. So please, everybody, take it in the spirit with which we meant it, and understand that from this, we just want people to take action, to be aware of what they can do to help. It can be keeping your cat in at night, or it can be putting a trap in your garden, or it can be writing a submission. And if you really care, the next stage is to join organisations like ours and take action and help, because our birds are really, really in strife. So many threats to them, honestly.
Lynn, we had a text before from Christchurch, curious of Christchurch. Ask Lynn if Forest and Bird got lots of donations. I think there was a news story about this tonight as well. The donations for the Bird of the Century competition. I mean, do you have an idea? Did a lot of money come in from overseas?
Look, there's no question that this, just as it's a record number of votes, it will be a record donations for us. They're still being toted up. To be honest, we've kind of been really focused on getting the votes right. And that's why we're a couple of days later than we meant to be. But for sure. And I mean, my theory is that with so many Americans voting, they tend to tip. It's kind of part of the nature, and $10 American, which was sort of the minimum donation I think we had. $10 American is a lot of New Zealand dollars. So we're going to benefit from the fact that the exchange rate is very much in the Americans' favour. So that's without donations we can't do what we do, what we've been doing for 100 years now. And this competition has been around for 18. I hope it's around for the next for the next time there's the second Bird of the Century in 99 years. I won't be here, neither will John Oliver. But the birds will still be in trouble, and conservation groups like ours will still be needed. And I hope these conversations, I hope we have enough birds, not gone extinct. We had 5 extinct birds this year, making a point that, that they haven't all gone extinct, hundreds of years ago, that's still happening now. And we have so many teetering just on the edge. I want all the birds that we're celebrating this year to be with us next year and the years beyond. So, we'd just like to thank everybody who voted, and I hope you're not too disappointed, and I'm so pleased that you voted, and every vote counted. And that top 10 is a beautiful, beautiful list of manu and different stories behind them, and that's what we've asked people to tell us.
I think the Keradu's on there though, is it?
No, I didn't make the top 10.
No, it is a former Bird of the Year, I'm very sure. Yes, I know, the pigeon on the tank top, that line that they had was like the kiwi from now on is the rat carrying the toothpick. Yeah,
poor kiwi, but also they're a bad-tempered bird, so they deserve a bit of ribbing.
Kiwi.
They're bad. I was with kiwi recently. I was told they're quite grumpy.
No, I hang out with them at Zealandia. I go on the night tours, and I've never met a grumpy kiwi, certainly not with people. I adore them. I think that's libelous.
Okay. We shouldn't debate this. Before you go, can you give us a bit of a backstage, kind of a behind-the-scenes view? What was it like dealing with John Oliver's team and his network?
We actually had one person who dealt with him, and that's the best way to do this, and this is my colleague Alan Rikers. And just so you know, I mean, this has been an interesting secret to hold. It was all on. They approached us. We said go for it. The writer's strike happened in Hollywood. So for a few months there, this was off the table. We didn't know until the writer's strike was resolved whether this would happen. So it was really touch and go. So that was tense. I don't think we had any idea how full on John Oliver and his team were going to go for it. The costumes and the puppets and the billboards kind of blew us away. I mean, that budget is phenomenal. So, but I think the spirit of it has been good. And when he says he loves New Zealand, I believe him. And when he says he actually loves our birds, I believe him. And he's been very supportive of us. I'd love to say, look, Hayden and Mark, I'd love to say this was part of a plan that we had from the start of the year, and every step has been beautifully planned out. That is not the case. This has been a roller coaster for us. I think we're surprised at where it's led us, and it has been overwhelming for a really tiny organisation. But I think one of the joyous things was in the news bulletin just how happy the Puteketeke people in Lake Wanaka are who are doing all that hard work. That kind of, to me, was gold. So, yeah, look, full on. We had to delay the results, put our hands up to explain why. I think the weirdest question I was asked in many interviews today was, had we thought about manipulating the results so that the Puteketeke didn't win?
Cutting out 290,000.
Yeah, I thought you might disqualify some ballots or something, but you
we
didn't.
Disqualified several 100,000 were disqualified for being fraudulent or unvalidated. So when we say that there were 380,000, 350, 380,000 validated votes, almost as many again we had to get rid of, and that's why it takes time, because one person, as you say, Hayden, voted for 40,000 votes for the rock hopper, cute hipster penguin, love it to bits. So that takes time to go through every single vote, but most of them were entered with open hearts, and people really thought about their birds of the century, our New Zealanders. Record number of New Zealanders voted. Thank you for every single vote.
Do you think you'll make any changes next year to the rules, like to make it a New Zealand only thing? Or
been asked that, Mark. I think that's a valid question. I would not say that. And to be honest, if John Oliver came back and said he'd like to support, a different bird or the same bird for Bird of the Year, we wouldn't say no. That would be madness. I mean, we...
Are other US TV hosts, other famous people trying to get on the bandwagon as well?
No, I don't think they will, although Jimmy Fallon was having a very funny time, wasn't he? That was one of the funniest things I saw when he was interviewing John Oliver in the Puteketeke suit. Oh, my God, I love that. I love that outfit.
You should get the suit. He should donate the suit.
We'd love the suit, but we can have that conversation. I mean, the puppet might be harder to get across because it's
get
pretty
the suit
big.
to Te Papa.
But no, I mean, it's the fact is that it's open access, and we love every single one of our campaign managers, and they don't have to have John Oliver's sense of humour or budget to be part of this wild ride. But I suspect next year we're not going to be courting overseas. He came to us. I'm very happy when it's grassroots, and we simply have campaign managers all around the motu, going out there and doing their thing, whatever their budget, and just their enthusiasm and love for the birds that they really care so deeply for. That's the payoff for Bird of the Year / Bird of the Century.
Another text here, Lynn, as Lynn says, let's not lose sight of the fact that it couldn't matter less to the survival of our native birds themselves who wins. What matters is that people care enough to want to know about and see greater investment in nature in New Zealand. That's from AJ. So that's the point made.
Double thumbs up,
well,
AJ.
Thanks, Lynn, and also congratulations on running an election with a clear winner.
No judicial review required.
No coalition.
No jostling about with Winston Peters. No negotiating with the Kia.
Over bird feed.
We've got it.
Look forward
on
to
the day.
Look forward to the victory speech. We actually did have Tom Sainsbury do a victory speech. If you can go online and find it, was hilarious. A little victory speech for the grebe this morning, which has kind of gone viral. Overseas interest in that too. So thank you, Tom Sainsbury. You're a star. And I look out for John Oliver's victory dance. I imagine he's collecting material as we speak, and that'll come out on Monday evening. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Well done, Lynn. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Bye, guys.
Okay. And, well, I suppose we better go on to the other election as the little country waits. We've had certainly a ramp up in negotiations, of course, this week.
Yeah, 5 weeks after I think the election was held, we've had the leaders of New Zealand First, National and ACT finally getting in a room together. Toby, they actually released a photo of this momentous occasion. Or, well, at least Christopher Luxon and Winston very much grinning. David Seymour looking a little bit more circumspect. Toby Manhire of the Spin-Off, he put together a detailed analysis of the photo. It has 12 points. Point number 5, I'll just note this one. Peters is sporting, this is in his words, a classic 2-point fold pocket square, sometimes called a two-peak. This is a clear signal that he regards the talks as principally involving two mighty Maunga and also David Seymour. Okay, well, I mean, even as this troika were finally, though, maybe starting to form a government, one opinion columnist was casting doubt on the election result that got them into that room in the first place.
Oh, which columnist was that?
Well, in the New Zealand Herald this morning, we had Richard Prebble, the former ACT leader, saying that there are reasons to doubt the result of the 2023 general election. Now, that is a pretty big claim. What evidence does he have to back it up, you ask, mate? Well, as it turns
Don't
out,
need any.
not a huge amount, mainly a series of anecdotes and hearsay. He says he knows some people that voted using their old address, that when he was involved in campaigns, he sometimes found evidence of electoral fraud that election day enrolment enables voter fraud because you can't check the eligibility of electors or voters.
Has he dyed his hair orange by any chance?
I think that a lot of people would dispute some of these claims, and they are a bit anecdotal, and they might only affect electorates, and maybe they wouldn't actually impact the result of the election overall. And several journalists have noted that same thing. So you had on X, former Twitter newsroom political editor Sam Sachdeva called them hunch-based accusations, and his colleague Mark Leishman took aim at the Herald for even publishing the piece. He said, "If I were one of the country's leading newspapers, I would simply not publish baseless allegations of voter fraud in the form of opinion pieces with no additional fact-checking or context."
So, too much speculation for serious allegations. Is there anything in that column that, was definitely inaccurate?
There was at least one thing that I know of. The piece is actually headlined, "High Court must decide if the vote counters got it right." And it ends with Prebble calling for a petition to be lodged with the High Court to challenge the party vote. So that's the important one. The lawyer Graham Edgeler, he is pretty well versed in election law. He helpfully clarified that the High Court does not have the jurisdiction to hear an election petition related to the party vote. So, bit of a pointless request from Richard Prebble there.
So that's the Herald in hot water. It's not the first time.
Not the first time over an opinion piece, at least. I mean, it seems like a little bit of a problem. If there is any fallout from the column, it would add to another time from last year when it was the subject of an upheld complaint to the Media Council after it published a column from National Shane Reti. It was actually originally the Northern Advocate, but republished on NZME and the Herald site. And that included a graph which distorted suicide statistics during the pandemic. You also had Prebble. He was the subject of allegations of factual errors, I think last year as well, over a column he wrote arguing that COVID lockdowns were New Zealand's greatest policy failure. And in that column, he said that modelers had predicted there would only be 100 cases of COVID during, I think, the 2021 Auckland COVID outbreak. And the modeler he cited there, Sean Hendy, actually took issue with that, saying that the estimate of 100 cases was not for the whole outbreak, but for how many cases there were at the time it was detected. So, I mean, again, I just want to make a case for more fact-based opinion columns, a bit more scrutiny on these things, because it seems that people can make truth claims in these opinion columns, and they're not always checked as rigorously as news reporting. And I think they deserve to be edited and scrutinised just as vigorously as reporting. And maybe we need to actually put a few more processes in place to make sure that fact claims in opinion pieces are in fact factual.
It's not just opinion, though. I mean, political news in general has sort of been strange. It's taken a strange turn in this period.
Yeah, it feels like the media's got a little bit of like cabin fever, a little bit antsy or something.
Enough to do.
Maybe not, yeah. There's running between corridors, chasing Winston around the airports. And I think Colin Peacock, my boss, covered that a bit in last weekend's Mediawatch. Now, he noted Newshub, they have their coalition cauliflower, and that's a slowly rotting cauliflower with googly eyes that they're using to measure the length of coalition negotiations. What will last longer, the cauliflower or the coalition negotiations? I do have a little bit of an issue with that because it's modelled on the Liz Truss lettuce, which was meant to measure whether the lettuce would last longer than Liz Truss's time as Prime Minister. Now, that was meant to be about how short her tenure was. This cauliflower is measuring negotiations that are dragging on. It's an inversion of the form. It's about something that's lasting long rather than a short time. It's wrong. Anyway, the general tenor of the coverage, I think, has been heavy on mixed metaphors, breathless reporting on not much that's actually happening. I want to highlight something Audrey Young in her politics briefing today. She begins by saying, we're at the stage of coalition talks where it becomes clear that 6.08% of the party vote can mean 100% veto on other parties. Welcome to MMP. That's the system we've had for 30 years. But the strange thing then is that she goes on to give a bouquet to Chris Luxon for accepting that forming a government can't be rushed. Now, fair enough in some ways, and those two things aren't exactly contradictory, but of course you could point out that National might have helped create this lengthy interregnum between governments by saying it would work with New Zealand First before the election and thus helping establish that dreaded 6.08% veto.
Having said all that, it's been a nice break from the election, Tyrone. It was so full on, wasn't it, leading up and through that election process. Over the last few weeks, it's been a breather.
I think so. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I've really enjoyed the last month